Alright, so I just realized after setting this up that this is set up as my old style of shifting. The way I used to do shifting on these machines was 1 back and 5 forward. But you guys kept saying that was backward shifting. So therefore I've been changing all my machines to be 1 forward and 5 back. And I just realized that this is set up as my old style of shifting. So to change it, I'm just going to take this, put it down here, and then basically just take this, put it down here, and that's going to reverse the shifting pattern, so therefore it's the correct way of shifting, where it's 1 forward and 5 back. Alright, so we got the gear shifter installed. It's a little bit stiffer than I'd like it to be. It's not really a smooth feeling of a shifting. I kind of like my old style of shift linkage, so how I did that. As noisy as it is, there's like almost zero friction, so you can easily find gears, you can easily find neutral. This one's a little on the stiff side, but it does work, so I'd say it's good enough. Let's move on. So let's move on to working on the front brakes. We need to install the brake calipers and then install the brake lines and get that stuff finalized. Alright, now I was going to put on the brake lines to finish the front brakes, but turns out I don't have any brake lines that are the right length. All the ones that I have are just way too long, just to go from here to here, so I had to order shorter ones, so we'll do that later. Now, ever since I hit the tree with the Ninja and the front tire snapped off, I've been looking at this trying to see, is there any weak spots right here? And this right here is making me nervous. This one piece of tubing connecting up to here. If I ever hit a tree with this front tire, I can just see this bending like a pretzel. So let's strengthen this top A-arm. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put another piece of tubing going from here out on this side of the shock, and then going back over to here. That should definitely strengthen this whole thing up. These things are super weird looking now, but should be stronger. So they made it 10 times harder to disassemble this thing. Also, it looks a little goofy, but it should be way stronger now. Alright, so I think the next step is we should work on building the headers and mufflers on this thing. Now, originally I wanted to do stainless because stainless is better and looks better, but honestly, my local scrapyard hasn't had any stainless for quite a while now, and I did look into buying stainless on, I think, eBay. But it'd be like $150 for stainless just to come out and, you know, out to here. Stainless is not cheap. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna chop this up and use this. This is the header for this engine. This is not stainless, but it's what this engine came with, so it should be fine. Now I finally figured out how I'm doing the headers and mufflers on this thing. For a while, it's been a really big question of how I'm doing it. Originally, I wanted to do all 4 ports going into one header and then out to one muffler. But I think that'd be a little too tricky, trying to go 4 ports into one. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to do how I have the CBR 600 project, is 2 ports going out and around and into one muffler, and then the other 2 ports coming out and around and then to another muffler. So we have dual mufflers on this thing. Now, I do know that this engine has, I believe these are called exhaust flow valves or something like that. Because we're doing 2 mufflers, I had to buy 2 of these on eBay. Basically bought these things just so I can chop it off right here and using these right here. So now for the mufflers, I went cheap and bought just super cheap. I think these are from eBay or Amazon, one of the 2. I think this is the same one that I used for the Grave Ninja 650. These should work for. Technically, these are not big enough for this engine. I think the seller says like the max CC size like a 650 or something. But because we're doing 2 of them, it's technically only 50 or 500 cc going into each muffler. So these should be fine. These should have plenty of airflow for this engine. So hopefully we have everything we need to build the headers and mufflers on this thing. Alright, now I gotta shout out Rogue Fabrication for sending me out this tubing notcher. This thing is really helped out over the... I've had it for about a year now, I think, and this thing really helps out. This pretty much must-have when you're notching tubing, building frames. You definitely gotta have one of these things. So I'll be putting a link in the description below for this thing. Definitely go check it out. This thing's pretty awesome. Now I cut out the material around here, so once I weld this onto here, it'll allow for airflow, obviously. I didn't cut out all the material just because I'm not really sure exactly where this is going to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line it up on the engine and then weld this onto here. I'm going to take it back off and then just come in here with a file on both sides and just clean up all the edges, so therefore it'll allow a smooth path for the air to flow. Then we got to do it to the other one because we're making 2 of these. Alright, we finally got the headers and mufflers installed. I really like the way it looks. I think it looks pretty awesome. One thing I'm a little nervous about, because we have 2 mufflers and because I had to install 2 of the, I think these are called exhaust flow regulators, something. Now, the wiring harness is designed to run one of these, but because we have 2 of them, I'm hoping to be able to just splice them together into the wiring harness, and hopefully they'll work properly. I'm hoping it's not going to be any issue. There's 5 wires going into these. I looked at the wiring diagram, and it looks like there's 2 wires going to the motor, and then 3 wires go into a little PC board or computer chip, whatever. So I don't know if there's any communication between this and the computer thing. Hopefully there's not going to be any feedback loop of running 2 of them. Hopefully they're not going to be fighting each other. Worst case, if we have to, what I can do is I'll run one of them and then somehow have one of these actuate both of them. I'll have to do some weird thing where 2 of these go into 4, and then those 2 go in here. These 2. It's be a little tricky to get it to work, but that's the worst case. So hopefully that works. Now, we're getting closer and closer to being able to finally start working on the wiring on this project. So there's only a couple more things we have to do. We need to finalize the front brakes. I bought a really long brake line for the clutch. We need to install that. That's going to be really simple. Then we need to finalize this. We need to install this onto here, hook up the throttle cable, finalize the radiator. We need to figure out the bottom mount for the radiator, hook up the radiator lines. We also need to buy a battery for this. I think a perfect place for a battery would be in between the transmission and the seat. There's a little room right there. This would be perfect right there, nice and protected. And then after that, if I'm not freaked out, oh, we also have to install the other 2 chains on here and then finalize those. We can't forget to grease those bottom bearings. Can't forget that. And then I think it is time to start working on the wiring on this thing. I have no idea how long the wiring is going to take. It could be a couple days, could be a couple weeks, depending on how much trouble I have getting it to work. If it's anything like the Ninja, it could take a month and a half. So hopefully it doesn't take me that long, but depending on how many problems I have, getting it to work, getting it to run, getting it to fire up, and then moving all the controls all the way up to there, and then building some kind of dashboard with a bunch of switches on it. So that's going to have to be for next video of this project. For now, I got to end this video here. Thank y'all for watching. I'll see ya in the next video. Honestly, it's been a while since I've broken a tap, but I'm rushing, trying to get this done, and sure enough, snapped a tap. Am I gonna be able to get that out of there? Should I just scrap this part and make a new one, or should I try and get that out? I'm gonna try and get it out. Yep, just make a new one. That's... Yep, I had to make a new one, because there's no way I'm getting that tap out of there, so... that only cost me 45 minutes extra work. Well, that broke that cutter. What's loose? Oh, look at that. This mill sucks. I want a Bridgeport.